Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the whole in terms of its large and dense of population. A total of 274 million individuals reside in Indonesia. There are various cultures and groups in Indonesia because it has a million of people who have their own culture and religions. Indonesians have 41% in the total of the Javanese and 50% is for population on the Sundanese side. The population of Indonesian is increased in number of Sumatra once and increased by 18%. There is a lot of main industry in the Indonesian, which is automotive manufacturing industry, cement industry, textile industry, tourism industry, and others. The textile industry in the Indonesian is ranked top 10 largest producing in the countries. The textile industry is the one of the oldest industry as it is the main of sources for the community in the largest of community sources of the employment in the countries. Other than that, Indonesia also has a great competition with China in producing a textile. It's about 35% of the global. The textile in the market was controlled by the China, and only 2% the textile market is controlled by the Indonesia. Next, Indonesian also focus on their tourism industry. This is because in the Indonesian have a lot of beautiful countryside, interesting culture, and a historical place, also a beautiful place in the Indonesian. The most popular place that have 10 million of foreign visitors on 2015 is Bali and Candi Borobudur. The government have made an improvement of infrastructure including ICT, accessibility, healthy, also hygiene, as well as it can enhancing online promotion package abroad. This action can make a system of tourism in the Indonesian will be increased for the future.
Three types of inflation in Indonesia, which are demand pull inflation, cost push inflation, and monetary inflation. The main cause of demand pull inflation is an excessive growth in spending. Excessive in demand than output will only put pressure on price level. When economy reach the full employment level of income, an increase in aggregate demand will only cause increase in price level. Cost push inflation caused by an increase in the cost of production. For example, increase in cost of labor, raw material, construction, equipment, borrowing, and as well as taxes in business and profit. Increase in the cost of production decrease the ability of producer to produce more product, thus decreasing in aggregate supply, and the aggregate supply curve will shift leftward. Monetary inflation is caused by an expansion of money supply of a country, resulting in price inflation. Money supply increase through an expansionary fiscal policy or expansionary monetary policy. Based on data from Central Agency Statistics (BPS), Indonesia experienced the lowest level in inflation due to COVID-19. It damaged people's purchasing power. It stated that the country Consumer Price Index (CPI) was up by 1.54% year-on-year in July, below Bank Indonesia target range of between 2 and 4%. It was also lower than June inflation rate of 1.96%. Indonesia also being gradually accelerate recovery to restart the economic activity after the pandemic. Besides, for the cost-push inflation, the government plans to reduce some administered prices, including electricity and fuel and transportation fares. The government, moreover, has ensured that food supplies will remain secure until the end of the year. Thus, there is no significant pressure from cost-push inflation. Price of goods or services is expensive, which lead to increase in production. As a result, certain industries reducing their labor, thereby cause unemployment. Lastly, for the third type of inflation in monetary inflation, we know that Indonesian currency is in rupiah. Broadly speaking, Indonesian economy appears quite threatening inflation. In fact, the rupiah is expected to depreciate against the dollar and growth of money supply is increased.
First type of unemployment that happen in Indonesia is classical unemployment, which is known as the real wages unemployment. Most people at Indonesia demand jobs with a high wages, but when trade unions negotiate to increase the real wages, it will cause the employer to not be able to hire and pay the available workers anymore. The employer not be able to pay a higher wages since it will make the profit of the company become lower than before. It will decrease the number of production. Next is frictional unemployment. In every country, includes Indonesia itself, has a school leavers and fresh graduates who just finished their studies. After finish the studies, they want to find jobs that are suitable with their abilities and skills. In between that period, they find a job, and before get the job, that we call frictional unemployment. It is just a temporary unemployment. Number 3, seasonal unemployment. During the school holiday season, we can conclude that Indonesia received many tourists during that period in every year. All hotels and resorts need many workers for their services. But during a normal period, there is not as many tourists than seasonal before this. So, the employer may not need so many workers at that time as there is no need for their business. The next type of unemployment is structural unemployment. In Indonesia, not every people has so many talents and skills. Some companies demand for a certain skills for their companies. They want workers that could fit in with the skills and the jobs offered. If the person do not have the skill required by the companies,
it means that the skill or workers are no longer suitable with the job available. The second last types of unemployment is technological unemployment. Nowadays, almost all countries have improved their technologies. Most companies and jobs using technologies such as robots, machines, and many more to produce products. This includes Indonesia. So, certain companies or employers do not need many workers as they already have the technologies to do all the works. This means that some workers may lose their jobs and need to find new skills that suitable with another job. The last type of unemployment that happened in Indonesia is cyclical unemployment. For example, we can look at COVID-19 pandemic situation. It is happened all around the world. Indonesia is one of it and faced a worse situation. This pandemic causes most people at Indonesia lost their jobs and the demand for the product become lesser. The economy also will be affected since the purchasing power and productions of the products have decreased.
Of inflation, divide 3. First, excessive supply of money. Second, excessive demand. Third, cost decrease, productive decrease. Firstly, excessive supply of money. Inflation will also occur when from the excess money supplies in the Indonesia market. This results in an increase in the price of goods. This oversupply of money occur is excessive in crying out government spending in Indonesia. A very critical inflation situation occurred due to the increase in the money supplies. This is because money is needed to finance government spending in excess of tax collection. Second, excessive demand. Inflation occurs when the total demand exceeds the supply of goods according to the current price. Inflation will arise if demand increase but goods and services do not increase in line with increase in demand. Third, cost increase, productive decrease. Productivity of workers in Indonesia may be reduced. Entrepreneurs in Indonesia also had to raise the price of their product. The inflation is due to the increase in wages, which in turn rises and the price of goods. Effect of unemployment divide 2. The first, reduce employees. Second, increase cost of living. Firstly, reduce employees. The economy inflation crisis in Indonesia. Many workers will lose their job in terms of government and private employment. Individual has no source of income and the unemployment rate is rising in Indonesia. The impact of this unemployment will cause poverty among the community and the country is affected. Second, increased cost of living. This drastic increase in the cost of living is very disturbing to the society in Indonesia due to insufficient income to cover basic needs as well as the debt burden borne to support the family.
Monetary policy and fiscal policy in Indonesia. Monetary policy includes adjusting the rate of interest and influencing the supply of capital. It is calculated by the central bank. They have inflation target. Next, they also have a side effect on the exchange rate and the demand for housing. Monetary policy instruments such as the use of open market operation, the reduction of the reserve ratio required, the reduction of the base lending rate or bank rate or discount rate, and the reduction of the interest rate. Money production, consumption, and expenditure will be decreased. Bank Indonesia or BI vote to leave a 7 days reverse report rate at multi-year low of 4.00% at the 12th until 13 October 2020 monetary policy meeting. The decision of the BI represented the third successional hold and was widely anticipated through market research. In addition, Bank Indonesia kept the deposit facility and lending facility rate at 3.25% and 4.75% respectively, and refocus on rising liquidity, including by funding at the fiscal deficit of the government. In order to influence aggregate demand in the economy, fiscal policy entails the government adjusting rate, tax rate, and level government expenditure. Change in spending and tax rate is government fiscal policy. The government is set up, they do not have any particular goal. Next, they also have a side effect on government or borrowing budget. Fiscal policy instruments such as increasing government spending and reducing taxes. Indonesia government announced that the state spending on COVID-19 outbreak control for the 2020 state budget as of November 2020 is 744.28 trillion rupiah, originally proposed 405.1 trillion rupiah on March 20. The fiscal deficit dropped to 3.49% in Q3. The fiscal deficit is forecast hit 1.6% in Q4. The realization of the deposit policy of the state budget above 3% of GDP would apply for only 3 fiscal years, which is 2020, 2021, and 2022. Beginning in 2023, the Indonesian government plans to implement a fiscal discipline of less than 3% of the deficit.
Monetary policy system in Indonesia has been greatly affected by the quick changes in the macroeconomic environment, structure modification, and a vigorous political climate. It starts with the credit and interest rate control policies, also linked with the exchange rate and capital flow management. Monetary tools that Indonesians use to solve the problems are raising the interest rate, open market operation, and raising required reserve ratio. By raising the interest rate, Indonesia financial institution has raised its rate of interest for the second time in a month. This is because the new Indonesian governor took a more preemptive method to the country's currency that is dropping rapidly from time to time. The currency fell into its lowest rate and has chased around 3.4% since the beginning of the year. The increasing of interest rates has an agreement with the newly appointed governor remarks that the bank project needs to be more preemptive in its approach to stabilize the Indonesian rupiah. Open market operation, or as called as OMO, are a transaction in the money market or foreign exchange market conducted by Bank Indonesia. OMO absorption is performed to absorb excess liquidity, while OMO injection is undertaken to increase liquidity in order to maintain a balance of liquidity conditions to support the achievement of monetary operation target in Indonesia. By raising required reserve ratio right after the coronavirus pandemic, Indonesia Central Bank kept its key benchmark rates but decreased its rupiah reserve requirement ratios to guarantee an adequate liquidity in the economy among the COVID-19 pandemic. The choices is because to cap exterior stabilization among heightened international financial market uncertainty. Meanwhile, Bank Indonesia comprehends sufficient space to decrease the policy rates because of moderate inflationary force and the critical need to excite the economic progress.
Import and export activities are very important for a country to increase and ensure the complete resource of society and economy. This is because each country has different advantages and disadvantages in terms of natural resource, in terms of weather and soil. In addition, economic progress in terms of technology is also able to influence the factors of the reports and import activities. Factors of the export and import activities. Since Indonesia is located as South Asia, extending to some territories in the Oceanic continent across from Australia, the Republic of Indonesia shipped an estimate US at 183.5 billion at 2019 export of goods to the Australia. There is several goods that Indonesia have been exported to the Australia and other countries, which is mineral fuels, including oil, electrical machinery, vegetable fats, waxes, and gems, precious metals, rubber, artificial clothing, and other accessories. The import activity in Indonesia comes in at 180 out of 109 economies on the ease of trading across borders. It takes approximately 99.4 hours to import a product into Indonesia and costs on average at US 382.6 billion. So, Australian business export goods to Indonesia should be aware of the various import duties and taxes that may apply and other import regulations which is they must comply. There is several things that Australian import to the Indonesia, which is beef, wheat, cotton, aluminium of fresh grade, motor vehicles and accessories, and pharmaceuticals for a retail. So, last, this is the data of GDP in Indonesia since 1967 until 2019. So this graph, this is shown the GDP, which is gross domestic product in Indonesia, is increased compared to the previous year. In year 2019, Indonesia was worth until 119 11.90 billion on their gross domestic product. The GDP value of Indonesia is represent 0.63% of the world economy.